and welcome back. In this section, we'll be talking about some of the key things you need to discard from your old resume ASAP. Let's get started. First, let's talk about objective statements. If your resume still has an objective statement, it just might be time for you to remove it. Objective statements were once the standard. They were good for at some points because they talked about what you'd like to achieve in your career. But it's been found that employers today tend to be more interested in what you can do for them rather than what you're looking to gain. That's not to say that you cannot talk about what you're looking to gain or your career aspirations, but you should not be leading with that on your resume. Imagine the stat that potential employers tend to only review resumes for about 7.4 seconds. So if someone is reviewing your resume for just about 7.4 seconds, that tells you that what you want to be or where you want to go might not be the first thing they want to be looking at, right? They want to be looking at things like what you are able to do for them. So you might want to replace your objective statement with a strong professional summary that highlights your key skills, your achievements, and the value you add to the organization. So an example could be instead of saying something like seeking a challenging position in a growth oriented company, you could be saying something like experienced. So this is your professional summary now. Experienced marketing professional with a proven track record in driving sales and increasing brand awareness. Of course, this still needs a bit of work. That's not how, your professional summary should really be in a real situation. But I'm just trying to explain that this is something that's likely to jump at a potential recruiter a bit more than just saying seeking a position in a growth oriented company, right? At least you're saying that you're an experienced marketing professional. You're also saying that you have a track record of driving sales and increasing brand awareness. So if driving sales and increasing brand awareness is something that's critical for that position, there's a higher likelihood that employer could be interested in, having a conversation with you. The next section we're going to talk about is your personal information. If you already watched the video on the standard resume format, you probably know this already, that there's some personal information that you do not need to include, like your age, your marital status, your religious beliefs, your hometown, your gender, a photograph. Certainly all of these are no-no. So there's no need for you to have them on in Canada. In your home country, it could have been okay for you to have some of these pieces of information on your resume. I know that at some point in my career, I have had my photograph, I have had my state of origin at some point in my career on my resume, but in Canada it's not required. In fact, it was considered okay to put some that information in my home country, but here in Canada it's not considered okay to include that kind of information. The idea is that it opens you up to biases. So, and biases are two ways. You providing that information makes it more difficult for whoever is reviewing your resume to be objective. And so that exposes the hiring process to biases. And it could also expose you to some potential fraud because, believe it or not, in Canada, if someone has a combination of your full name, your date of birth, and your address, there's a potential that they might be able to steal your identity, and then you have the responsibility of protecting yourself, right? At the end of the day, you have to beware and ensure that you do not provide any information that exposes you to fraud or exposes the potential employer to biases or accusations of biases. The third section that you would want to take out of your resume, or the third thing, sorry, that you'd want to take out of your resume is irrelevant work experience. This is something I really struggled with. I thought, oh my God, I have so much experience. And just because all of that experience apply or does not apply to this job I'm applying for, does not mean that I should take it out. It should naturally show the employers that I'm someone who has a robust experience. I have heard this. It has happened to me. When I talk to people have said this to me, that doesn't that make me look less experienced? Doesn't that mean that I'm not, I'm a one-dimensional person. I understand all of that. But the practice here in Canada is that if something is not relevant to the job you're applying for, feel free to remove it. Employers are interested in the experience that relates directly to the job you're applying for. That's just the way it is. And if you think about the fact that they don't have that much information, it would help you to understand that truly they would want to, only, I mean, I'm sorry, not that much information, that much time. It will help you understand why someone would only want to see the experience that relates to the job you're applying for. Another thing you have to think about is in a lot of the situations in Canada, in a lot of the roles, you're largely, especially in big organizations, you're largely responsible for a specific thing, and that's your job, and that's what you're doing. If your home country is similar to mine, even if your job title was a specific thing, for example, maybe logistics manager, it's possible that you could have done a bit here, a bit there, many more things, record keeping, accounting, bookkeeping, all of those things here and there. And all of those amazing things that we had to do from our home country, these are things that have made us into the amazing professionals that we are. And that would make us, a great addition to any organization that decides to take a chance on us. However, you do not want to be limiting your own chances by including irrelevant, work experience. So if you're applying for a role in marketing, for instance, your early job as a server may not be relevant, except the role, if you look at the job description and the role is requesting for like experience in customer service, then you may want to say, okay, your role as a server may be something that may come handy, right? So instead, you want to focus, and I'm still talking about the case where you're applying for a marketing position now. You, instead of focusing on your server role, you want to focus on the roles where you gained transferable skills that are applicable to the job, that marketing function that you're applying for. And if you're worried that this may discount your many years of experience, you may check the video on shrinking your resume, where we talk about how you can, talk about the jobs that you have done in the past without elongating your resume, without, that's tautology. Well, without elongating your resume too much, right? Okay, moving on. You also need to note that missing your years of experience might not really matter if you still have enough experience to meet the job requirements. What do I mean by this? What I'm trying to say is that if you are maybe the job, if you look at the job posting and the request is for a 7-year work experience, your own work experience is 10 years, right? If you're losing 2 years of experience as a server, you still have 8 years that would make you eligible for the job. So I wouldn't want you to be so fixated on, oh, I don't want to lose any of my years of experience, that you then lose the potential to get, to the next stage of the recruitment process, if you understand what I'm trying to say. Again, if the job requires 7 years of experience and you have 10 years of experience, and now I've said to you that take out irrelevant work experience. If the relevant work experience is just about a year and a half or 2 years or even 3 years, it might be okay for you to take it out. Because even if you take it out, you are still eligible for the job you're applying for. This is a tough concept to understand for a lot of us newcomers. I get that, but it's just the way things work in Canada. Okay, thank you for staying with me so far. The fourth thing you want to take out of your resume would be outdated or irrelevant skills and technology. It's crucial to remove outdated skills and technology, or even irrelevant ones, from your resume, because technology and industry standards evolve very rapidly, and I'm sure you know this already. And listing obsolete skills can make you appear out of touch. Simple as that. Additionally, technology standards may differ from country to country. The standards of technology that were applicable in your home country might not be the rave here in Canada, may be different. So you need to have done your research and, to help you know which technology is the rave here in Canada and the ones that you could be using. I know people often wonder that, okay, if I say that I can use Microsoft Office, maybe like a Microsoft Word, doesn't that mean I should be able to use, is it Google Docs now? The one where, yeah, that does the same work as Microsoft Word? Or let's use Excel. I know that's called Google Sheets. So, for example, if you are excellent with Excel and the job is asking for Google Sheets, you may be wondering, if I state that I'm good with Excel, doesn't that also mean to an extent that I would be very good with Google Sheets? Well, maybe not. Maybe a human being might understand that if they read your resume to that point, but the ATS might not understand that. The person who has, or the way the ATS has been set up, it might not recognize Excel. So if the job posting is asking for Google Sheets, please, write Google Sheets, knowing that you can apply your knowledge of Excel to Google Sheets. It just shows that you have done your own homework. It shows that you understand the job posting, and it shows that you're someone who is flexible enough to be able to recognize, what's applicable here in, in Canada. Another thing I would like you to consider is the language you use to describe your skills. But we'll cover this in detail in the section on the top 5 mistakes that immigrants make when creating their Canadian resume. So I wouldn't talk too much on that, but just look out for that video. Make sure you watch it so you can understand how language can greatly impact whether or not you will get to that next stage of the interview. Again, just an example. Instead of using skills like proficient with, or, writing things like proficient with MS-DOS, and I don't think anybody would do that in the real situation of things. I know, but just an example. So instead of saying MS-DOS, you may want to update your resume to reflect modern skills like Python, Java, all of the amazing things that are in use right now. But you have to study the job posting to find out what's in use, right? If your research shows that the popular presentation platform in Canada is Microsoft PowerPoint, instead of saying I'm proficient with Google Slides, you really want to be saying Microsoft PowerPoint. Even if another thing that usually happens to us newcomers or immigrants is that we tend to think, oh, Microsoft PowerPoint is a presentation platform. Google Slides is a presentation platform, but I'm also good with Keynote. I'm very good with Canva. And you're thinking, oh, Canva seems to be a bit more, fashionable, nice, and maybe even prezi. And you're thinking, oh, these are very nice and modern and all of those things. So once I put prezi on my resume, the recruiter would see that, oh yeah, this person is even more advanced than what we're looking for. That might not work well for you. In most cases, they're not looking for someone who is more advanced. They need somebody who meets the standards. Leave, your knowledge of being more advanced for when you get the job, so you can show your skills and sell that maybe platform to the organization to say, this is what we need to be using. It's going to get the job more done a bit better for us rather than the older platform we're using. At the point of applying, you really want to be paying attention to what is requested in the job posting rather than trying to confuse recruiters with, platforms that they might not be familiar with. And the last thing we'll be talking about is excessive length, details, and design. The standard size or length of a Canadian resume is 2 pages. Believe it or not, it might seem crazy. If you have like 10 years of experience and you've done so much, your experience is very diverse, you've done amazing things, this might be a tough pill to swallow, I know, but it's the truth. So you really want to be working on finding a way to discard those excessive details, the things that are, for example, the relevant job experience, you want to take them out. Designs, please keep it as simple as possible. One of the challenges is that if the organization is using an applicant tracking system, it might not pick out the details on your resume. So you need to keep the design as simple as possible, keep it concise, be focused on what's being requested, so you do not end up shooting yourself in the foot. Employers, again, typically spend only a few seconds on each resume, so it's very important to present your information clearly and concisely. Remove any redundant or overly detailed explanations. An example is rather than providing a long narrative about every job you have had, use bullet points to highlight key achievements and responsibilities that relate to the job you're applying for. Key achievements and responsibilities that relate to the job you're applying for. Remember, I didn't just say key achievements and responsibilities, the ones that relate to it. You may have many achievements. Only state the ones that relate to the job. An example could be led a team of 10 in developing new software features, resulting in a 20% increase in user satisfaction. That's clear, that's concise, and that just helps, the whoever is reviewing your resume to see that, okay, this person is not bad. I may want to talk to this person, right? And I hope you found this helpful, and see you in the next video.